Hello, welcome to a new video. Today I have a tiny observerless 7x7 at 1540 blocks, and it's quite fast. It might be the fastest of this size, but I'm not sure. Here's the door. Closing it that fast. And then the opening. I think I can do that. Yeah. And then I think the bottom for me is more interesting than the top. This size is quite hard, obvious, I think, because bottom needs to have free storage, but it's one less wide than what I think would be normal. So you can't do the zigzaggy storage like that, because unless you're using targets, which I'm not, impossible. So that's why we have strange like storage. Anyway, you'll find out in the explanation. The top is also folded. Yeah. So it does 3 quints, which is why it might be a bit slow. But for doing 3 quints, it's not bad. And it does a different bottom sequence than is normal in observerless bottoms like this. It does a sequence which I think is pretty normal in obful doors, but not observerless, where it doesn't have to pull the stack down one more time. Anyway, yeah, I think it's pretty good, and it's not very dense in the bottom. Yeah, it's easier than I thought it'd be. But the one problem is concrete powder stack, which I really don't like, but it's the only way I can do it. So yeah, here is the explanation part. So you will need a whole bunch of stuff. A stack and 44 sticky piston, 16 normal piston, 17 redstone blocks, 2 stacks and 4 dust, a stack and a half of repeaters, 21 torches, 24 droppers, 26 hoppers, 19 comparators, 5 powered or I don't know what they're called, activator rails for updating stuff, 2 furnaces or any 3 containers, but that chest can't be a furnace, but this can be a barrel or I don't know, any other containers, can't be a hopper, and then the furnace is just here. So you can place them all with barrels if you want to. Then you need, for this amount of door frame blocks, it is 3 stacks and 39. But if I go up here, you need that many quartz blocks if you only want to build that much. We need 15 immovable blocks, so that could be 15 more furnaces or obsidian, 16 transparent blocks, like slabs, then stack and 43. All these can be any colour, obviously. These can be any block over there. Actually, one of them has to be transparent. Anyway, this is the input to the pistons. Stack of 43 white wool, 19 green wool, and 3 glass or 1 glass. This one has to be glass or a slab. These two can be whatever. And that's for the tape. 15 blue wool, and blue is the top extension. 30 purple, which is the bottom retraction. 15 magenta wool, and 3 concrete or sand or gravity blocks. And that's the top refire. There are 3 different refires in the top, and I made them all of it in colour. 12 light blue and 1 blue concrete powder. That's the bottom, like, I don't know what to call it, but it's like the bottom bit, which is before the tape, but isn't lime. Then 7 yellow wool and a concrete powder. That's top retraction. 6 orange wool is top closing, and 6 pink wool is top resin lock double extender. And 17 lime wool, which is like this setup, which gets reused a lot in the bottom. You also need 6 unstackable items. Yeah. And 20 normal items. They can be stackable or unstackable, apart from 1 which has to be unstackable. Yeah. So that's everything. You need a 7, I think that is. Yeah, 7, which is quite short for a for this size of door. I'm just going to grab some blocks. And by 11, I think, and then it's I don't know, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks below the door frame. Door frame is like this, so actually 6. I can't count quickly. Anyway, so you come 2 blocks in on that side, and then it's 2 blocks for input and lighting, and then 2 blocks for storage, and then the extender goes there. The extender goes 1 off the bottom, and we leave 3 on both sides, I think. And this goes up only 3, which seems quite short, but that's because we have the fold here, so that will do more extending, and it also helps with the storage. That's why I store the blocks. Just push over, push it up, and then the door frame goes here. 1 extra on both sides. The wall, make it 7 high. Yeah, 7. Single extenders on both sides like normal. I hope you won't be able to see that, but whatever. And the top is very similar, just the storage is different. 1 row of storage there, and then 3 pistons with a fold. The fold also has 1 row of storage, which gets pushed in by the redstone block double extender. That's the layout, and then inputs. This stuff's like those. These are all the movables. Blocks up there. That one doesn't. It gets budded because, I mean, I guess you could do that, but there's not much point. And that goes down, and oh yeah, there's an updater there, which I think isn't locational, but yeah. Then we have that line for the fold, that line for that line. I think the piston is there, maybe the updated piston, and then the double is those gusts. It's a very dense input like layout, which is why I thought the store would be worse than it is. Updater goes there, and updater goes somewhere in there. And then that's that. The inputs for the bottom has a lot of input lines. This one does the fold and that bottom storage. You have another input line. That does the bottom pistons and this block, but we can't always have this power that, so we have another input line just to do the bottom pistons. And then row of obsidian. Actually, I don't know if that needs to be obsidian, but I never tested it without, but I'm pretty sure it does. Actually, does it? I don't know. Well, we're already getting a bunch of obsidian. More won't hurt. And then that one needs to be obsidian, I think. Yeah, definitely. I'm also going to make a few of these barrier blocks so I can see what's happening. So those are the bottom inputs, and yeah, in terms of hallway, I think you probably need some of these blocks, and you need this row to be solid for the tape, but I think the rest doesn't have to be. I forgot this is probably part of the setup. That is an updater. To update pistons there. And then we also have this thing. Credit to thingies called Cohen 11, who I took this idea from, because he's got a very nice folded top, a bit bigger than this, but very quick and comparative, which is impressive. I'm going to fill these in. Why not? And destroy this, because it's annoying and I don't know why I build it every time. Right, so red input. I don't have any red wool. Why is that not in there? Right, well you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 red wool. 22. Yeah. Right, so input line is starting here. I think we just do the singles super quickly. Yeah. Just a torch tower up, and then the dust there. That does nearly all of those. But I also have this torch to do that one. And this goes, we'll build the top first. Top sequence is kind of confusing. It kind of just happens, but we have a few input links which I'll build now. Consider furnace for much later. Those are the input links, which, yeah, and for the close, what we do is I'll build it first in some specific timing. So we power the storage immediately, and then we go into the closing circuit, which is this. Yeah, I think that's a hopper facing that way. Basically, it powers the storage, then it one-ticks this line quick enough so that these don't spit out because that's still pushing across, but these get pushed down. And then the input link two-ticks this line, which does push those down, and all we have to do is power this. So stick a lever there. That's what we get, and then we just power that. And it does the extension because of this link, and then that turns off. We do that, and then we just start the first extender. To power this, we're going to use some blue circuitry because I built a blue circuit first. And we can't power this with more than one signal strength. So we have to use a dropper hopper, which is also handy because it takes longer to turn on than to turn off, so it means there's less input delay in the opening. And this just gets powered like that. So we now get close and then that much of the opening. And now the extension circuit, which gets powered by this torch turning on, because this gets basically the blue circuit, every quint it gets powered twice, and we do the refire by powering that halfway through. So yeah, basically the quint is attached to the storage, which is very useful. And the first thing we have to do is zero tick that line, which is fun. This zero tick gen I looked at Cohen's door a while ago and he was using this zero tick gen and I could not think of a better one, so here we are. And it's just why is that extended? Oh right, I've butted it. So what we do is zero ticks that, and then we go through and one tick that line, a tick later, and it basically does a lot. I'll do it in slow-mo. So zero ticks that and then does that, which is very useful. And now what we have to do, when that's extended, we two tick that to split those out. So we don't actually two tick it, but it still works. And the way we do that is just with handy dropper hopper. There, goes through and powers that, and it works out, which is very lucky. That's also being budded by there, by that's updated, and yeah. So now we've connected that up, it does the extension, and then the next thing we have to do is power this line, but we do it through this input link because it's easier to power this, which does that. And we do a double, except this sort of thing's input bugs, so in the actual door we'll just power that. We update those, retract the double extender, that happens, which is useful, and then what we can do is refire the extension. So that's that. This going through this link also extends the pulse to here to the right amount. And then we'll untick this. And then guess what? We do the double again. Except it will work. And that doesn't need an update. But it needs an update. Now to retract, that does the retraction bit. And then we do the retraction, which it's quite hard to do manually, but does the retraction. So the next part is to unpick this, and the way we do that is with that. So it's just like this sort of unstable, but on its side. So that will untick and we switch back on, which is perfect. So that does a one tick and does a bit of a retraction. Now we've got the double extender, which is pink. Double extender is not super easy because it needs, well, the way I do it is, this part is actually kind of confusing. So we link these two together, which lets us do a double extension, and then we want it that which does the retraction. I'm going to leave that unhooked. But what it means is we need a really, well actually I can connect this up, and this input link plus the locking repeater makes it on longer. And if we it does that. So, but it means we need 6 tick or a 5 tick pulse into this, which is quite difficult. And the way I did it was with a, they're called an RS roller. So stick an item in there. This is why this can't be more than 1 signal strength, otherwise this will turn off. So this turning back on starts the double, and then we power that. And to turn it off, you do that with that dust there, which is powered by that, but it doesn't matter. What it is also powered by is this dropper hopper circuit. That does that. So that just doesn't work, it seems, because that should be a slab, I think. And then this gets updated by pistons here. That gets locked by that. So now we just get a pulse, which is not the perfect length. It could be a bit shorter, but in the size, I don't know how I would have done that. And that just does that. And now we need to one tick this, except there's no way we're doing it on this side, so we're doing it on this side. And over here is like spaghetti dust, and it's confusing. But that, I think, is a slab. If we compare it to here, so when the one tick goes through, this doesn't turn on, but when that does, it does. And that will go through and power this cooling edge monostable, which that is a slab. It goes up there. And we need an updater here to spit it back. This is so this retracts one tick later than that turning off, otherwise it'd be too quick. And that does that. I don't really know why this pushing down the redstone blocks doesn't work unless there's a repeater in it. Well, that's just how it is. The reason why this is a slab, and that is a slab, is so we can power this without powering that, and we can power all this without going down here and powering that. So now we've done that, we can put some blocks here, and we do the refire, and it does all of that. But that didn't retract because this needs to get an update, which it does, like that. So that just goes in and powers this top piston, which updates these to retract, so they will be pulled up here, ready for the yellow circuit. So now what we have to do is that with an update, and then do it again, and do that. The way we get an update is with the red circuit, which also powers the sides, which is connected to this, which does mean the sides are spanned, but yeah. And so they're powered like that. And they do updating stuff. So the way we refire this line is we fill this remaining space with. That's why we have a magenta wall, and we do it in this space. So I think, I'm not sure how the hopper is looking. It looks like that. Do that. It has to be a chest, because if it's alpha then it will get locked by that dust and won't work. And if you compare it to output, when this is powering the droppers, it doesn't do anything because they're already powered, so the dust being there doesn't make it locational, I hope. But instead, when this powers, the droppers do stuff, so stick an item in there. So the first time, if you power droppers like that, it's in the bottom one, that moves it to the top and then out reliably. So the first time this powers, goes through, does the comparator, which powers the storage, and it goes back into there, and then the second time it just moves it back up to here, and the comparator doesn't fire. I don't know the exact timings here because they change so much. That's a 4 tick, that's a 1 tick. Yeah. So make this 4 tick, plonk this here to invert the signal so we can put it into a torch and into a repeater into there. So if I put the item in there, it will power that twice. If I remembered to do that. And it does it again. It doesn't keep on firing, so that's good. Now all we have is the retraction circuit. But before we can build the retraction circuit, we need to be able to, we have to like have somewhere which powers the retraction circuit. Because, yeah, which means the second time this whole thing goes, we power yellow. And the way we get a toggle is using an updater. So stick a rail there, I'm just thinking now, I don't think you can place rails on hoppers in old versions, which means although this is 1.5 components, it's not actually 1.5 door, and that rail is spat out. So if I disconnect these and stick a comparator here, first time doesn't power, second time does power, and that is why we have the concrete powered. Let's have 3. This powers up, and then that goes into dust and piston. But we need it to 1 tick, which means we can't just have a furnace here with that constantly being on. The way we get 1 tick is quite lucky, I think. Need 2 shovels. One goes in there, and the other one goes in there. And then that's on subtract mode. And then basically we get really lucky, and that 1 tick while this is up. So if I stick a piston there, that makes a 1 tick. And it doesn't work. Why does it not work? I don't know why that doesn't work. That's bad. Oh. I can show you what's meant to happen. That's meant to do its thing. And 1 ticks that. But it doesn't seem to work. I really just want to record an explanation and the door work. Well, I guess I'll have to pause the recording and figure this out. Right, so I figured out the problem. I think it's just because these redstone blocks are doing something funny, but it works now. Redstone block doubles just have to be doing the right thing. So as you can see, it does 1 tick, and then does that. So yeah, and that, and then that goes into yellow. Yellow goes into there to start the retraction. So you see when that goes through, it goes through there and 2 ticks that, like that, 2 ticking that, which starts the retraction. But those powered, but in the retraction we retract this before that line powered, so that won't happen. And the way we do that is with another concrete powder, which is why we have this furnace stick an item in it, and that goes through and does that. To test the retraction by itself, I'm just going to be doing that. So what will happen is that will retract, and we get that. And then we also get that retraction, which is very nice. But that retraction is way too quick because we need to power the redstone blocks again. And the way we do that is with that. Well, that's a lot of delay, you might say. And you're right. I'm just gonna do some world edit magic and copy that. I can reset it easily. So that does that. So yeah. And the reason why that is so late is because of this input link, the forward pistons, when they're here and have storage in, will push down, which means we can't push the redstone blocks across until those retracted, which is why it has so much delay. And because that has so much delay, it means this retraction has to have so much delay. So we do that. Yeah, and that's that. But what we also have to do is lock that repeater so it doesn't do this input link straight away, something like that. Anyway, it works, and we'll see what happens. Those extend, and those retract, those re-extend, and it does the retraction. Except that didn't look like it worked, because if we've got blocks here, then yeah, that's bad. Another problem. Right, okay, pause the recording again. Seems I can't build. That's meant to be a 2-tick. I really remember it being a 3-tick. Anyway, so that helps because it means faster than what we've been looking at. So we'll do this. And it just works like that. It's not super fast, but it's quite hard to make it fast. So that's the retraction circuit. It's really small. These input joins, links, whatever you want to call them, are really, really useful. But now we have another refire circuit to refire the whole entire door and a bit of extra moves with the storage. Refire circuit is literally just that. Well, not really literally just that, but basically it retracts these into storage at the perfect time. I mean up there, and then it powers the storage, which just starts another extender. And then it retracts those up, and then this is the cool part, it powers the storage again, but instead of retracting into storage, it pushes it over, and then the extension zero ticks those, which means we get another storage for free. And then that's just the whole door. But we need a toggle thing here, which is powered with this. So stick an item in the locked one. And then we take the comparator output, and that just gives an output from the yellow circuit after a while. That can't be solid, otherwise it buds that, and if that gets pounded for more than the pick, then it stays up on budding issues. So we stick this into a dropper circuit. And that is the dropper circuit. With a shovel in, we need 2 shovels, shovel in that one or that one, and then a shovel in that one. And then we also sneak that in there. So basically, this dropper here acts as a hopper. You just can't put a hopper and then another hopper. Might as well suck it out. So this one just gets powered whenever. So don't have to worry about that. Then we've got 3 droppers here. And basically, it's this sort of circuit. If you've never used one of these before, very useful. Basically, this redstone block acts as the extender, and this acts as the refire. So we do the extender, it powers the refire, which makes us do another extender, powers the refire, which makes us do another extender. This time it doesn't refire because there was no item. So there's an item that time, item that time, not an item that time, because there's an item in there, so the items are there. And then it does that, and then that, and now there's no item in there, so it doesn't power, and resets it. So that's basically what this circuit is, except it doesn't look like that, it's just fit in the space. So that's one of the droppers, that's another dropper, and then that's another dropper, and then the comparator reads it. And then it goes through this repeater to power that, and yeah. So now, hopefully, we should have the hole closed, and hole opening. And there need to be shovels in there to get more signal strength out. And that can be the bottom pushing up. So yeah, it doesn't work. So it just carries on forever, it seems. That's because that hopper's meant to go into there. Now you see it will eventually stop. Okay. So now it should work. If you're troubleshooting the door, you need to make sure that's in the right place, that's in the right place, and there's a shovel there, and a shovel in there. So now it should work. Except it doesn't work. Why doesn't doesn't it work? Because I can't place blocks correctly. Right. Also this happens sometimes. It's annoying. This whole topic's kind of annoying. Going to do this and up there. Okay, so shovel in there, shovel in there, all there. I'll do it at double speed. And then that's the whole top done. Right, that took a hot second. Bottom, to power the bottom, we just have a hopper loop with 7 items in. This stuff isn't needed, but it makes sure all these pistons in sync. Thanks to Pixie Blocks for that. Then we have a dual edge monostable, which is there. Okay, I'm confused now. That doesn't make sense, does it? It does make sense. Alright. Dual edged, monostable. Just that. From the comparator. Quick to turn on, takes a while to turn off, and that while gives the time to the top to extend. Then we go into the light blue circuit, but actually before we do that, I'm going to build the lime circuit. So, part of the lime circuit is this. So, I'm not sure exactly what it looks like. So that's what it looks like. Basically, it links this input line into the one above. As you come up, that one does 2 pulses, which is very useful. What we also do, link those. So now if we do that, and that's going to be an annoying thing. I'm going to test the whole door with 2 rows of extenders because it's easier. The lime circuit also think lime circuit also powers that line, and 2 ticks later powers that after a long time, which is very helpful. Because now one use is we do the retraction with it, and it also does that storage. So yeah. Right, so that's the line. It just does a bunch of stuff. But back to light blue. I just realised it's been 15 minutes and that's too long. Anyway, this part will be quicker. So we have this strange thing, which basically just does that. This piston is so that gives out a 1 tick. So I get 1 tick into storage, and then this goes and does the 1 tick like that. And if we compare this input link, so if I never power that powers a while later, we get a double and that, which is basically everything. So yeah, power the storage by there, and then 1 tick into this does that storage, and then that goes into the lime circuit, which makes it do a double, and the double extension is done with this link, and then after a while does the fold, not fold, so yeah, and then if we do the same thing on the opening, does all that, and then to get everything ready for the tape, we power that part again. So we're gonna make this circuit next, which looks like a really complicated dropper thing, but it's really not. We just need a lot of delay from this to that, so there's no toggles or anything in here. It just, so you can fill all these up with toggles if you want. And that just 1 ticks that, which all of that just so we get the closing to split the blocks 1 block higher up. So yeah, that's concrete now because it's powered by that green wall all the time. So that just does that. And then we have an actually kind of cool dropper circuit. Which is this one. That acts as a hopper, but you can't see a hopper otherwise the comparator, which is here, we'll be able to read it. So that's just powered vanilla by that Peter. And then these two make up a toggle, so the item starts there, and on the close it moves to there, and on the opening this repeater moves it to there, and then the lime circuit happening moves it to the comparator to power the lime circuit again. And that's a 2 tick, I'm pretty sure. Basically it refines that, but only on the opening. That does all of that, and that's everything over here apart from the tape. Talking about the tape, we're going to make the tape. Might as well make this side of the tape. Nothing special. The tape just has to work. It doesn't even do any extra moves after the tape. We lock the repeater so it stays on. So that powers. Whenever that happens, but we add these bits. So that happens. That updater updates after 3 game ticks or something. So after that has started retracting. That's that tape bit done. And then the tape over here, a lot more complicated. this part is not complicated. The actual tape part isn't very complicated, it's just tape. Yeah, that redirects by redstone block. Otherwise, stick a torch under here. It just tape. And now where it stops. Tape done. But the harder part is powering the tape. We do that with this circuit. So the first time this powers the bottom's done all of that. So we just go and power the tape. So the way we do that is we leech off of the purple circuit, which has this handy falling edge, one stable, which powers the storage and does that. So what we do is we just power that with a slider. So this is the slider, and it slides down, does that, and when it slides up it doesn't do anything. The sliding up is really easy, just connect it to there, because we want it to slide up after the whole opening is finished, otherwise this powering again would push it down again. So instead of doing it at the end of the opening, we'll just do it at the start of the closing or opening. And then, so after that happens, we need to power this, which is quite hard. The way we do that is by budding it and updating it a tick earlier before it stops being buddy, which will do that. So if we fill in all these and push that down, take all that, and then push up, doesn't do anything. The tape goes into the purple circuit, which immediately does that. So now that goes there. Also, this band again from the top doesn't do anything. So that retracts it down. Obviously, from that turning off, and then we just connect that into there to use that again. For the storage to power. So that could be a 2-tick if you want it to look faster. Then the next thing is to 4-tick that before this connection has 1-tick this. So we get that. And the way we do that is just by chance this works out. That torch turning on goes into there, and then this being pushed back down takes it out. So we'll do this. Very nice. And then I'll make a quick mock-up, the sort of setup. So that's what we're doing, basically. As soon as this retracts, we spit that out and one tick that, which means we don't have to remove this piston before powering it on. It's very handy, and we'll just carry on. So to do that obverless, we need 2 1-ticks into there, and the obvious way I thought to do that was with a dual edge generator, such as this one. So when you extend that, it does that. When you retract it, it also does that. So we just add that there, and I'm also going to add these torches which power that, like the second pulse of this does. That needs to be specific timing, 1 tick after those spits out. So this powering, but 1 tick, and then 2 ticks it. So now does that, and then that also does that from the input join, and then we just have to 1 tick that, and then 2 tick this line because we've got all the line wool. That does the whole attraction. It's amazingly easy, I think. So the way we do the second 1 tick to there is through this one stable, which just has a bunch of delay. Powers both of these, but I don't think that matters, because by that time we've started retracting the extender, which we do through there. So that just 2 ticks that line, so it works. Yeah, nothing really to say about that. So we set everything up. Well, I just maybe missed it, but it works. So that's nice. This bottom is so simple, I love it. So, if we power the bottom, we can just do it with the top. Why not? You can see everything work, and that's the door done. No cooldown as well. And then that pushes down that now. And that, because this is down, that powering again won't do anything. Top does its thing. See, that powers again. Everything's done. And can remove this, and we're finished. That was very quick bottom. Anyway, goodbye.